Hey there everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to share with you how I made this life-size Grinch for just around $40 from almost all Dollar Tree materials. And if you're new here, stick around by hitting that subscribe button so you never miss out. Let's get started. To start off making my Grinch, I am going to make the legs first. So I am going to use this roll of wrapping paper in the plus section. It is $5, but I used this particular wrapping paper because it has the tube insert inside the roll of wrapping paper after you unroll it. So what I'm going to do is just unroll the wrapping paper. I will use that wrapping paper to wrap presents in later on, and I will take the tube out and I'm going to use it for the legs of my Grinch. I'm just going to cut the tube into 2 equal pieces. To make the legs stand up and to make them more sturdy, I'm going to use these paper towel holders from Dollar Tree. I just placed the tube on top of the paper towel holder on one side, and then I flipped it upside down and did it on the other side. So I used 2 paper towel holders and 1 tube for 1 leg. I did the same thing for the other leg, as you can see here. Then I just used a couple zip ties and zip tied the bottom and the top of the paper towel holders together to make them more sturdy. Now for the body of my Grinch, I'm going to take one of these $1.25 Dollar Tree laundry baskets, and I'm going to place that on top of the legs. I did cut off around the top of the laundry basket, and then I'm going to zip tie the laundry basket to the paper towel holders to hold everything down in place. And then I'm going to take a second laundry basket and I'm going to cut the rim off around that laundry basket, kind of where you would hold it underneath there, so that way it doesn't stick out. And then I'm going to place that laundry basket on top of the other laundry basket upside down. And as you can see, that first laundry basket that I cut, it helps for that second one to fit kind of right inside there. And then I'm going to take some masking tape and just tape that laundry basket together so that way it doesn't stick out too much where I cut those pieces. Then I just took this wire waste basket and I put that upside down on top of the other laundry baskets. And I used some zip ties and zip tied those baskets together at the top and cut off the excess zip ties. Now I'm going to move on and make the head. I picked up 2 of these pieces of green fabric from Dollar Tree. I just unrolled each piece and I ironed both of them because they were really wrinkly, and it just makes it easier to cut the fabric when they are all ironed out. Once they were ironed, I went ahead and took both pieces and I lined them up together, and then I just made sure that they were as even as I could. These pieces aren't like super even. And then I folded it over once. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take a piece of chalk and then I just made an outline of what I wanted the Grinch's head to be. So half of his head. So I started on the side that was folded and then drew half of his head on the other side. And I did draw a neck as well. And then that way, when you cut this out, you'll have a full Grinch's head that will be symmetrical on both sides. So then I just went ahead and cut this out. Now, full disclosure, I did make another Grinch's head because this one was a little bit too small. But I didn't realize it until I was almost done with this whole Grinch, and then I looked at it on the side and his head was a little bit too small. So I did make it a little bit bigger in the end and remake this head, just so you know. Now I'm going to go ahead and place the 2 pieces of fabric together. I just used some hot glue to glue the pieces together, leaving the neck open so that way I could stuff it. You can sew it if you want, or you can use some hem tape, or you can use some like sewing glue. What is it called? I can't remember the name of it. But you can use that as well, but hot glue works just fine for something like this. So then once that was dry, I went ahead and stuffed the head really well, just with some old stuffing from an old pillow. And then for the neck, I'm going to use this pool noodle from Dollar Tree, and I just placed it inside the head where the neck is, and then I just cut it off to the end of where the fabric was, and then I just hot glued the fabric around that pool noodle. The pool noodle is just going to help keep the head a little bit more sturdy when I place it on the base. So I'm gonna go ahead and place it on top of that wire basket, but first I'm gonna go ahead and cut a hole in the middle of that wire basket that is about the size of the pool noodle. And then that way I can shove that pool noodle down in there to hold the head in place and make it more steady. And then I did add a little bit of hot glue around the neck to make sure everything was secure. Next, I'm gonna move on to the feet of my Grinch. So I took a pool noodle, I just cut it down to a length I thought the feet would be. And then you can see there, I cut it into a point on one side. And then I cut the bottom of that point off to make it more flat. And then I rolled that point up at the top to make it look like the toe is a little more curled. And then I hot glued the foot to the leg. To cover his foot, I'm going to use this red velvet fabric from Dollar Tree. I just got one roll of it. I cut it in half and then cut that half in half again and use one half of the half for each foot. And then I'm going to cover it to make it look more like a boot. So I just placed the fabric up underneath that foot, and then I just wrapped the fabric upwards and kind of tucked it and pulled it and hot glued it just how I thought it looked good. There was no kind of rhyme or reason. I just tried to make it look nice and even as best as I could. And then I just used a little piece of white cloth to wrap around the top of the foot. Now to cover the legs with some fur, I'm going to use this faux green craft fur that I got from Dollar Tree for $1.25 for each roll. I got 9 rolls. I'm going to go ahead and take 3 rolls and I just cut them into strips that would wrap around each one of the legs. And then I just used hot glue to hot glue them around the legs. It worked out really easily. I went up both of the legs, and I think that this green faux fur really makes him come together and start looking like the Grinch here. After I covered up his legs, I wanted to go ahead and cover up the bottom of his body that's not going to be covered up by his Santa Claus suit. So I took 3 more of the rolls and I wrapped those around the bottom of that first basket there up to kind of where that rim is on that second basket. So I did 3 rows, and then I took another piece of the faux fabric and I went ahead and because you can see where it gaps there in the back. So I went ahead and cut that piece and filled in the gaps. So that was 4 pieces total that I used for this part of his body. And I just used hot glue again to secure that down. Now he's really coming together, but he does need some arms. So I took a pool noodle, just one, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut that pool noodle in half in 2 equal pieces. And then I'm gonna come to the top sides of that basket and I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with the head. I'm gonna cut 2 small holes just big enough for the pool noodles to be shoved inside of there to be held down in place. I couldn't find anything to use for a Santa Claus jacket at Dollar Tree, so I ended up getting this Santa Claus suit at the thrift store for $8.99. It came with pants too, but obviously I'm not going to use the pants. I'm just going to use the jacket. It was a little bit big for my Grinch. I did end up cutting the sleeves a little bit to make them a little bit shorter, and then I am actually just hot gluing the middle down here, and then when I get to the bottom, since it is a little bit long, I'm just tucking that up underneath the lip of that second laundry basket. And now I'm gonna go ahead and attach the arms so that way they're not like sticking out. So for this first arm, I'm just gonna have it holding down to the side. I just used a zip tie and put it through the pool noodle into the basket and zip tied it together. For this second arm, I wanted it to kind of be holding outward so that it had kind of like an elbow to it. So this was a little bit more difficult. I kind of got it to work, but I think it probably could be better. But I just used a zip tie again through the pool noodle and through the fabric of the jacket. It was really thin fabric, so it was easy to kind of get the zip tie through. So I put a zip tie through the elbow, and then I came down a little bit more and put another zip tie and zip tied it to the basket. And I think it kind of looks like his arm is holding out. For the hands, I'm just gonna use another piece of that faux fur. I just cut it in half, and I am just rolling it into itself and kind of brushing out the fur to one side. That way it kind of looks like a hand. And then I just hot glued that end to secure it down and kind of flattened it out a little bit. And then I'm just adding some hot glue to the top of it, and then hot gluing them to each one of the pool noodle arms. And I think it kind of gives the effect of a Grinch hand without kind of having to do all of the work. And then for the neck, I wanted to add a little bit more of that green faux fur at the top there, so it looked like it was peeking out of his jacket and around his neck. And then that way it also tied in with the legs and everything else, since his head was a different color. Again, I just used hot glue to secure that fur down. Now moving on to his facial features. I ended up just taking a piece of regular brown twine, and I used some black acrylic paint, and I painted that twine and let it dry. And then I'm just gonna use that to make the details on his face. You could use yarn, you could sew his face on, you could paint his face on, you could use iron-on vinyl if you have a Cricut or something like that. That would work as well. But I thought this was just an easy way to make his face, and the twine was easily moldable, especially after I painted it. It kind of stiffened up a little bit, so that way it held its shape a little bit better. So I just made a smile. I used a little bit of hot glue for that, and I just used a very, very small amount of hot glue, like just kind of what was left on the end of my hot glue gun, because I didn't want it to seep out over the twine. And then for the eyes, I just cut 2 pieces that were the equal size, and then just took the ends of those pieces and came up to a point and hot glued those together. And then for the pupils, I just made 2 little U shapes and hot glued those in there. For the nose, I made a spiral for that. I just hot glued the twine, and then I just started kind of wrapping it around and using a little bit of hot glue to secure it to the fabric to kind of spiral that nose and make it look like a round circle. And then I just added the eyebrows for detail. I was able to kind of curve those upwards for each one of those to kind of make them look a little bit more mischievous, I guess. And then I also did the little lines on the smile, one on each side, just to kind of tie it all together. I went ahead and took some yellow acrylic paint and painted the inside of the Grinch's eyes just to make them pop a little bit more. I wasn't gonna do this, but then I decided that I thought it would look better if I did. So I went ahead and did this after I added those U shapes, but I should have did this before I added those. It would have made it a lot easier to paint, because I did get a little yellow paint on the black twine, but I just went in with some black paint and just touched up the twine after I was done. I took the end of my brush and I just dipped it in some black paint to do the little dots on his face. And then to finish him off, I got a little Santa Claus hat from Dollar Tree and added it to the top of his head. And I absolutely love how this Grinch turned out. I was really hesitant to make this Grinch, but I'm so glad that I did. It turned out better than I could even imagine. And for just around $40 to make this guy, I think that is a great deal. And that could vary depending on the supplies you already have and the coat that you get for him. So I think it's perfect. I'll leave a list of all the materials that I used down below in the description box. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give it a thumbs up. Leave me a green heart emoji down in the comments below if you made it to the end of the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.